When I joined this site, I'd met some foreign women here in the United States, back where I live, and I was interested in them, not women who were actually born in the States and, were Asian or some other ethnicity. So I just, thought they were interesting. Loved the accents.
Okay.
They speak pretty good English. I love their accents.
You're a sucker for a good accent. Huh?
Yes,
All right.
yes, and a pretty face, of course.
Okay.
But no, that's why I joined. Like I said earlier, I worked a lot, so I couldn't go on tour. I was working 7 days a week there for a while. Then the pandemic hit, so that everything dried up, and then everything kind of got back to normal. I thought, just one day, I said to myself, it was like a Wednesday night. I thought, I'm writing out a check. I'm going to mail it, and I'm going on this tour. Because I had up my vacation time and I could take off.
So let's talk about why did you pick Thailand over? We go to Europe, we go to Latin America, other places in Asia. Why Thailand?
Well, that was my first one. So I would like to go to China. It'd be nice to do the Europe tour, but unfortunately the events going on in Ukraine, that's not possible at this time. And I've been to Mexico several times. I even thought about doing the Mexico City tour.
But what got you interested in going to Thailand first? Was it just or?
Well, the dates, I believe it was August 24th through September 2nd. I did the 10-day, and it just worked out. Where I work is not everyone can take vacation at the same time, so they try to spread it out. And nobody was taking vacation at that particular time, so it worked out well.
So your schedule worked. You know,
Yep,
go to Thailand.
Worked. Yep.
All right. So were you fearful? Were you nervous? What was going through your mind when you first signed up and as the date got closer?
Well, the first thing, I've flown to Europe before. I've worked in Europe. It's a long trip. Recently, as last summer, I worked in Denmark for 16 days.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I had jet lag. And this was 28 hours travel time and 30 coming back.
Wow.
And that's a lot of jet lag. And
again, another Foreign Affairs live webcast. My name is John Adams, one of the co-founders of A Foreign Affair. And yes, they let me back on the set. I don't know how I managed to get back up here. Well, actually, Anna and Dina are on assignment right now and not here, so I am filling in. But I always love being with you guys. It's so much fun to talk. Hopefully we'll get some questions here. It may not be the most exciting of topics tonight because we're going to talk about some of the way the site works and whatnot. I think that's important to go over every once in a while, so I'd like to talk about that because our site is so much different than just about any other site out there in existence. And it's important that you guys understand when you're using it, especially some of you newbies, of how it actually works, how to get the best of it and the best from it. All right? So that's really important. But before we get too much into that, I want to wish all of you a belated happy Thanksgiving. Hope all you guys had a fun, safe, turkey-filled Thanksgiving. Lots of fun. You know, we had a tour going on in Mexico City during Thanksgiving. Actually started on Thanksgiving Day. And we had quite a few guys there. It was actually sold out. Great tour. And I was talking with Kevin, who's down there with all the guys as well. And he was telling me how it was going. And the guys were all really happy, doing their dating and all that. And even, on Thanksgiving Day, when everybody was getting there, the staff took it upon themselves, even though it was Mexico, to have a little Thanksgiving celebration. They cooked a turkey, and I heard one of the women even dressed up as a turkey. But that kind of stuff, and I always talk about how our staff tries their very best to treat you guys as family when you're there, to do their best to show you the hospitality that we feel that you should have. This isn't just, okay, come meet women, that's it. I mean, the staff, they get to know you. They care about what they're doing, and it shows. I mean, for a woman to dress up as a turkey and cook, the Thanksgiving Day dinner for a bunch of crazy Americans who were there on Thanksgiving Day to start their tour, I thought that was impressive. I know we've done that before because a lot of times we do have tours going on Thanksgiving. We had a couple of years ago before the war, we had one in the Ukraine, and they got this big old turkey and they tried to stick it in this small little oven at the flat they rented in Ukraine, and the oven wouldn't close, and it was a big mess. And yeah, but you know, they try. They do their best, and I think that's really neat. I just don't know of any other sites out there that give that kind of warmth and service when they're trying to help you meet your special someone. So, shout out and kudos to all those guys that are on that tour in Mexico City. They're still there right now doing their dating, meeting everyone, and hopefully they're doing great. We have one tour left this year. That's it, guys. One tour left, and that's it. Tours are in the book for 2023, and that is on December 7th to Davao, Ukraine. And that's it for the whole year. So if you were one of those guys that were saying, okay, 2023 is going to be the year I'm going to go on one of these tours and meet someone, but I'll do it, you know, sometime first of the year or whatever. And now all of a sudden, here we are in November getting ready to switch over to December, and you still haven't done it. You still got a little bit of time because you can try and get on this Davao tour. We just had someone sign up just a few minutes ago for it, and there's still room on the Davao tour, so you can still jump on that. It's an excellent tour. I highly recommend it. The one wonderful thing about the Philippines is everyone does speak English. Makes it a little bit easier. But hey guys, look, if you weren't able to do it this year, I get it. This is one of those things where you'll look at and then you'll kind of tuck it away in your mind, and you'll come back and you'll look at it again, you'll think about it some more, and then you'll tuck it away again in your mind. And life gets in the way. I mean, we get busy. Stuff happens. And you know, unfortunately, especially us men, all too often we put ourselves last. And we're doing everything for everyone else, and we're not doing the stuff that we really need to do for ourselves. We want you to meet the women profiled on this site, okay? We do not want you to sit there and write letters all the time. Do the correspondence or do the Skypes or whatever, right? A lot of you guys will do that. A lot of you guys will do that, and you won't go over and you won't meet the women in person. And that's what this site is really, really designed for. That's our main thrust, is to try to get you over to meet. And you guys, there's so many different ways you can do it. The platforms that we have, it's either going to be a group tour, which I love. Any of you guys that have known me for the last almost 30 years or so know that I am a huge believer in the group tours. That's how I met my wonderful wife, Tanya, who's probably watching. She actually watches these shows, by the way. And if I say something wrong, then, you know, she lets me know about it. So, my wonderful wife, who I actually met on that tour, gosh, and I know tour, almost 27 years ago now. My God, yeah, witness the gray hair. It's been a while. Yeah, our 25th year anniversary is coming up here in a couple months. That's how amazing that is. So the group tours I love because it gives you the opportunity to meet so many different people. And then you have the clubs where you can go and you'll get the opportunity to meet lots of different people in a short amount of time with no socials, just one-on-one introductions. And then you have just one-on-ones where you can just go. If there's only 2, 3, 4 women you want to meet, just go and let us know, and we will just make those little introductions for you. So you don't have to do the whole big group tour thing. You don't have to do the club. You can just go over individually. You know, but if you're writing to the women, then you should be able to meet them. And if you ever find a problem where you're writing to someone, you can't meet them for whatever reason, then you need to let us know. We will look into it, and we will resolve it one way or another to make you happy. If for whatever reason, you know, you can't meet. Normally that's not the case. Normally you can meet, but if there's a problem, we're happy to look into it and resolve it for you. But we don't want you writing forever for a lot of reasons. And we'll talk about some of that tonight. It's so much better for you to go over and meet in person. Why do you think we do all these tours? Why do you think we give you money back from what you spend on correspondence so you can actually go and meet these women in person? We've had some guys who've done enough correspondence where they're actually able to go on a tour for free, which is wonderful in a way because at least they're getting a lot of that money back. But, you know, it would be better if they didn't spend as much time, effort, and resources on the correspondence and just went over and met in person. These tours are amazing. And we'd love to see them tripled or quadrupled. There's so many women out there that want to meet. When you go, you start to see that we could double or triple the schedule if the demand was there and have you guys go on more and more tours. Let's think about that, guys, for next year, 2024. Make every tour sold out, so 2025, we can add more and more dates to it. I would love to be able to do that, all right? That's something that we should have as a goal together. All right. Guys, you can, this is a show for you, right? I don't have a huge agenda tonight. I want to talk about some things that are on the site to give you a better experience, to give you more information on how the site works so that you can use it to the best of your ability and give yourself every chance for success. So I want to talk a little bit about that. We will. And I think some of these things are important. That's why we put this text in your mailbox and in your admin section and in the terms and conditions and all these places so that you understand how this site works, because it is much different, as I said earlier, than just about any other site out there. We're more of a premium dating site. We're not a do-it-yourself type site out there, which most dating sites are. You know, you put up a profile, she puts up a profile, maybe you two will connect, maybe you won't, but no one's in there helping or assisting. Whereas with us, it's totally different. There's a lot, and I mean a lot of assistance that the women get and the men get as well, in so many different levels of this site, from the tours, from the introductions, correspondence, video calls. There's a lot of work that goes into all this to try to get you guys together, which is why when you use a site like this, you get much more exposure, you get much better responses and more interest, because you have a whole team working for you, pushing and trying to get the women interested as much as possible in you. And this is one of the things that you're helping doing by using this site. You have to understand that. And when you go over and you're meeting these women, sometimes women may not want to come out, and the matchmakers trying their best to say, no, he's a wonderful guy, I met him, he's this, he's that, he's this. Hardly any other site does that. But we do. We've been doing it for almost 30 years, and it's great because it's helped with a lot of marriages. There's a case just recently, just today, someone told me about when I was talking to one of our affiliates, and they were saying how they just had a marriage with a woman who was 35 and the man was 31. Well, the woman really didn't have a lot of interest in meeting someone younger than she was. And if you know anything about Ukrainians, usually they want the man to be 10, 15, 20 years older, because they view men their own age, or especially younger, as just not being mature enough. Nowhere near mature enough, right? And that's just their view. And I know, because I've been around it long enough. And so this woman really didn't want anything to do with him until the matchmakers pushed her to meet, convinced her that, you know, he was more mature for his age, all that. And they finally met. That would have never happened on a regular traditional site where you have no one else pushing or helping the two to come together. And I can give you example after example after example of that. Even my own marriage with Tanya. She didn't want anything to do with me when I first met her. And some people actually said some nice things about me to her, which was wonderful. But she didn't want anything to do with me. I had to convince her how wonderful a person I am. And it took a long time, let me tell you. But if not for that social, if not for all the other people around, I probably would have never had a shot with her. So, yeah, it really does matter, and it helps. All right. So, Malibu Ed. So you guys, feel free to chime in. I don't want to talk myself all night here, but I do want to go over some things that are on the site, and we're going to do that. But Malibu Ed says, I was on the November 2019 Ukrainian tour with the oversized turkey. That's hilarious. I didn't even know exactly where it was. I knew it was a few years ago, but yeah. And it was delicious. Was it? Oh, that's great. What's the best way to meet Ukrainian women from the AFA website now without going to Ukraine? All right. Yeah, you know, the war, it's just so bad, because I'd love to have another tour there during Thanksgiving and cooking another oversized turkey. That was a huge turkey from what I heard, Ed. But anyways, so how do you meet women around and in the Ukraine now that the war is going on? So, a couple ways. One is, and we do have some men that are going into the Ukraine. You can't fly in, but you can fly into Poland, you can fly into Moldova, and then you can take alternate transportation, buses, taxis, trains, things like that, and you can actually get to Odessa, you can actually get to Kyiv. Are we recommending it? Are we telling you that's a really great thing to do? No. But there are some men that just want to do it, and we do have people in Ukraine, staff there, and there's, you know, millions of people living there still, and women are there, and they are open to meeting. You know, for the most part of Ukraine, in those cities, it's life as usual. They're going to work, they're going to school, they're going to restaurants, they're going to bars, they're doing things, right? Yes, there's a war going on. Yes, it's terrible. And there's caution and there's all that. But life is going on. So again, we are not advising anyone to go to the Ukraine right now. It's probably not a great idea. But if you really are interested in going and want to meet, then you can talk to us and you can see how others have done it and you see if it's something that you're willing to do. But it is a risk that you have to assess for yourself. Okay, enough said about that. Now, the alternative to going to the Ukraine to meet the women would be to meet them outside of the Ukraine. Some of the women from the Ukraine are already living outside the Ukraine in Germany or Poland or Italy or places like that. Others who are in the Ukraine, if you have some kind of communication with them, a few letters maybe, or a Skype call or two, they may be willing, if they feel there's a connection, they feel there's some spark, they may be willing to get on a plane, a train or a taxi and do the 12 or 14 hour jaunt it takes to get outside of the Ukraine to Poland or someplace to meet you. Okay, we have had that. We've helped arrange those things. So that's a possibility, but it's just more work. It's more laborious than it used to be. Before, when you could just fly into Kyiv and, within a day you're meeting, 2, 3, 4 women easily. It's not that easy anymore because of logistics and how spread out everyone is. But it is possible. We have some men that are going to Western Europe and spending, a week there or 10 days there and meeting multiple women. But it is more difficult. It has to be thought out a little bit better, planned out a little bit better. And we can do that. We have staff that will help you do that if that's what you want to do. So we do have men meeting women in Ukraine and outside of Ukraine. And I think it's wonderful. If you can go to Poland or if you can go to Germany and you can meet some of these women, that's what we want to have happen. I would love to do another social in the Ukraine again, but obviously that's not going to happen until it's safe for everyone to go there and the war ends. And hopefully that's going to be soon. We can only pray. We are still considering trying to do some kind of a social event in Western Europe, maybe in Poland, maybe in Germany. And that's something that we're still talking about internally. And if we can make that happen, then we'd love to make that happen too. Because we still want to give you guys and all these wonderful women the opportunity to meet in person as opposed to the calls all the time, okay, or correspondence. Much, much better to meet in person. All right. Jonathan says, I'm in correspondence with a girl in Canada. Is it possible to Skype with a girl in Canada? Jonathan, it is possible and should be possible to Skype with virtually anyone on our site. And I, as one, highly recommend doing that as opposed to a lot of correspondence, because when you Skype, you can see more about what she's all about. She gets to see more about what you're all about. And you don't have this correspondence thing to hide behind, right? And, and again, we're going to talk about correspondence in just a little bit, but with the correspondence too, it goes through matchmakers, it goes through third parties, and they get assistance and they get help. And so there's going to be 3 of you basically involved in that. And even on a Skype call, there's going to be a third person on there, but at least on the Skype call, you can see her more. And even if she's getting assistance with language translations and things like that, you have a better idea of what she's really saying and what's going on, as opposed to just correspondence. So I am a huge fan of trying to do a Skype call. The sooner the better, actually, before you do a lot of correspondence. Now, some women might want to do 1 or 2 letters before they agree to a 30-minute Skype call with someone, because if there's no chemistry or there's, they don't feel anything, haven't seen your photo, they may not want to just, commit to that. But once they know a little bit about you and they're open to it, then that's great. And so if you've been corresponding, Jeremy, with this person, then I would absolutely do it. Yeah. Jeremy says, my lady is in Odessa, and she said power was out everywhere. Yeah, well, probably is, unfortunately, because we're coming into that time of year again, and power outages and all that are going to be going on again, I think. And so that's just not a wonderful thing. I know people who've been in Ukraine here. With someone who works for us was just there a few weeks ago, and where he was, there really wasn't any issues at all. But in Odessa, there can be, and in Kyiv, there can be as well. So again, you have to be careful if you are really thinking about going over there. Definitely talk not just us, but others, to make sure it's something you really want to do. We do not advise it. Chris says, if you go to Mexico, be ready to dance your legs off. Sadly, a lot of the guys there last weekend didn't dance so much, so I picked up the slack. Good job, Chris. Yes, pretty much everywhere we go, when you get south of the border, whether it's Colombia, Peru, Mexico, they love to dance. And so you've got to, at least be up a little bit. I mean, look, you may not be, Fred Astaire out there, but, get out there and put a little energy into it. And that's all you need to do. No one cares if you're any good at it or not. Just get out there and have fun and be comfortable with yourself. That's so important. And the women will see that. If they see that you're just comfortable in your own skin, that goes so far. It really does. I don't care where you are, whether it's here in the States or in Mexico or around the moon. If you're comfortable in your own skin, women are going to love that. And they feel more comfortable and confident around you when you're comfortable and confident. So get out there and just have some fun. Yeah. Franklin said, isn't there a war going on there? How is it possible a marriage agency is still open? So Franklin, the one thing you got to keep in mind is, yes, there's a war going on. And when you see the media and the stories about the war, they're going to show the worst they can possibly show. Normally, they're going to show the fighting and all that. And yes, there is fighting. There's drones that come into Kyiv, drones that come into Odessa. But on most days and at most times, it's pretty much life is normal. These people are not in bunkers 24/7. They're going to school. They're going to work. They're going to restaurants. They are living their lives still, even though there is a war going on. So you have to understand really how that works. And I've been involved in a lot of media stories over the years. And I saw where they had the Orange Revolution in the Ukraine, and the media was looking, making it look like it was the most dangerous, biggest thing in the world. I was there, and I was right next to a camera, and there was hardly anybody there, but they were trying to get them all riled up to make it look really bad. And I'm like, really? I'm right here. It's not that bad. Now, I am not saying that it's not a bad thing. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. This war in Ukraine is tremendously terrible. It is awful. And I absolutely do not advise anyone to go over. But we have had men that have gone over and have dated and have brought back fiancés. Okay, so I mean, it has happened. And if you are one of those men that really want to go, we do have staff there and that can assist, but we don't recommend it. Okay, I really want to be clear about that, because I know people say, well, Adam's just telling everybody to go to the Ukraine, it's fine. Well, no, I'm not. And that's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that the media has been known to hype things up from time to time. And so when you see something, yeah, you're going to see the worst usually, but you're not going to see all the people just quietly going to restaurants or going to work or doing stuff, because that's boring. And they're not going to show that on TV so much. So just keep that in mind. All right. Mark says Odessa was hit with a blizzard today, which could be another reason why some of the power is out there, weather related, which I could see. Jeremy says, I'd like to visit the office while I'm in Odessa and meet Anna. Well, that might be a little bit difficult, Jeremy, if you're in Odessa to meet Anna, because Anna's in Phoenix right now at the office here, so she's not in Odessa right now. But you can come to Phoenix and meet her, that'd be fine. All right. Jeremy says, what does a 40-year-old have in common with a 25-year-old? The guy is the obvious winner in that relationship. Yeah, the age differential is a very interesting thing, Jeremy. I've been at this now for almost 30 years. I've seen 5-year differentials in relationships that go down in flames very quickly, and I've seen 40-plus year age differentials that are still going strong, okay? So it really, really depends on the two people involved. Yes, statistically, you have more risk with a larger age differential, okay? But that's statistical. When you get into, couple by couple, person by person, it really depends on those two individuals. The divorce rate in the United States is about 50% or so. Some say it's even higher than that. And we have one of the slimmest age differentials pretty much in any culture. It's very, very slim compared to most cultures. In a lot of other cultures, the age differential can easily be 10, 15, 20 years. And we see that a lot with our couples, although I'd say the average age differential is about 11 or 12 years, even with us, if you were to really kind of look at the average. But there are some outliers that have 30-year age differences, 40-year age differences. I know of one that I'm thinking of that's pretty close to a 40-year age difference. They've been together now for, 7 or 8 years, still going strong, still doing great. I know several that have 20, 25-year age differences that are still going strong. And the men and women have a lot in common, and because that's who they are. But I've always said, if you're, say, I don't know, 50, 60-year-old guy, and you want to marry someone who's 20, 25, even 30 years younger than you, then you better be willing to do all the things that you did 20, 25, 30 years ago, and not expect her to live like someone who's 20 to 30 years older than she is, because that's just not fair to her. You got to experience things that you want to do when you were younger. So, there's an old saying, you got to have the game to cover the spread. And if you've got that, then yeah, you can go and do that. But if you're going to, watch Wheel of Fortune, drink a cup of warm milk and go to bed at 8 o'clock, then no, it's probably not a good idea for you to marry someone who's much younger than you. I mean, it's about the people involved. It always is. So it's not just an age thing. It's funny, when we first started, we used to put the age of the women, I'm interested in someone up to 30, up to 50, up to 60, right? We used to put that. And then we decided that was worthless, because the women who were saying that were marrying men that were much older than that. We talked to them and said, well, I didn't know he was going to be like that when I met him. And I see that quite often, even with some of the affiliates, where a woman's like, no, I only want someone who's like 40, 45, not 50 or 55. And then they meet the 50 or 55-year-old, and it's great. And they laugh at themselves for almost not meeting that person, almost not giving themselves that opportunity. Again, it comes down to the person. That chronological age doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. Once you get past, 25, 30, people age differently. They take care of themselves differently. Their mental, the way they act, personality, totally different. And it doesn't really have so much to do about age. All right, I'll get off my soapbox on the age. Chris says the Mexico City social was incredible. Well, thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Just happened, guys. Today's Monday, so that just happened Friday, Saturday. They had their socials. So wonderful to get the reports here so quick. All right. Let me just go here a little bit further. What does it mean when a Ukrainian woman tells you we are different and in relationships? I don't know, Don. I'm not sure exactly. I'd have to have more context to know what she means by that. Tells you we are different and in relationships. I'm not really sure what she means. If she wants to be in a relationship, I'm not sure what that means. Juan says, I don't want to talk to any woman from Mexico. I am Mexican and I like women from Europe. Well, Juan, that's what makes the world go round, right? I mean, everyone's got different tastes, and that's why we have women from all over. So I think it's good. All right. I'm going to get to some of your questions here, but I want to go over a little bit about some of the things that are on the site, I hope. If I get my computer to work here. Okay, hold on one second, guys. Bear with me. I'm having technical difficulties. I haven't had enough Mountain Dew, I think. But I'm going to get this working again. Hold on one second. It's coming. I think. Or not. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Really? Okay, here we go. It's coming. Give me a minute. Not even a minute. Wants to lock me out. All right. So when you log into our site as a user, right, you're going to come to what we call the admin page, basically your account, where it says my account. And guys, there's a reason why we put text there, because we know you're going to come to that page, and we know that most likely if you're going to see the text, you'll see it there. And it's important that some of the text that we put there, we feel is very important. That's why we put it there. We put it in other places on the site as well, where we think you're going to be, and you might look at it, you might read it. And we encourage you to do that. I'm going to read just a little bit of it, And I don't want to bore the pants off of you, but I think it's important because we try to be as transparent as possible as how this site works. Because as I said earlier, it is different than just about any other dating site out there that you can use. We are very unique. We have been since we started this thing back in 1995. And we've had thousands and thousands of marriages since then, right? Including my own, including many who work for us here. But you have to understand how this site really works to be able to take most advantage of it, right? So it's important that we talk about these things once in a while. So when you log in, I just wanted to just bring it to your attention that one of the first links you'll see here is a link to the frequently asked questions. Guys, take the time and read those frequently asked questions because there's some good advice as to how the site works, right? Questions that we get a lot from you guys that you're probably wondering about, we try to answer there for you. So it's important that you read that, okay? And then we talk about how it's a good idea also that you actually read the terms and conditions that are located here and in your inbox. So you can find that anywhere on the site. And I know when you log on stuff, you just click, right? Oh, terms and conditions. Well, with us, those mean something. You need to read those, and because it gives you a lot of good advice. If you read it, you'll understand how the site really works. It's important. Then we strongly advise, okay, let me just read this here really quick. It is imperative that you meet in person. We do not, nor have we ever advocated excessive correspondence. Guys, you do not want to sit here and be writing for months or years at a time. That's not what this site's about. It's about trying to go over and meet. Yes, you can use the letter writing if you read the good advice, how to do it. There's a lot of good advice on the site that talks about how to use it wisely and responsibly. But, if you just want a pen pal, I guess, if you just want to write and you're never going to go anywhere, then fine. Then you can just sit there and you can write, and that's fine. And a lot of you, I think, are just going to do that. You're not going to want to go over and actually meet someone. If that's where you get the value from it, then that's great. But for those of you that want to go over, that want to meet someone that could possibly change your life and have changed, like mine, so many other lives out there, then you don't want to be writing forever, and you want to actually go and meet these women. And yes, you can use this as a tool to do that, but you don't need to write a lot. To go on a tour, I know intuitively, I'm saying that right, you think that you have to write, you have to have a connection. I have to have a connection before I go. No, you don't. I didn't have a connection with Tanya before I went to that social. I never knew the woman existed till I met her at that social. And the only reason I met her was because I was there. I wasn't in front of my TV or on my screen writing letters. I was actually at that social. She was at that social, and we met. Now, of course, she blew me off when we first met. I always give her a hard time about that. But it gave me the opportunity to get up to bat, to actually just put myself in front of her and meet her. And without that opportunity, we would have never had the life that we've had for the last 25 years together. 27 years almost, really, this July when we first met. So, guys, it's all about putting yourself in a position for success. And that's not just writing letters forever. That's not going to get you anywhere. You have to actually go and meet the women if that's what you want. If you just want to write and that's all that you're interested in, fine. Then you can do that till your heart's content. But again, if you want to go over and possibly make something happen with one of these women, then you need to go do either the tour or the individual things that we talked about earlier, that kind of thing, all right? And to that point, we talk about here again how we offer several ways to meet, including group tours, club, executive packages, and one-on-one introductions, even in cities where we do not have an office. Guys, if we don't have an office, some guys you'll say, oh, well, John, how do I meet her? Because she's in Timbuktu, you don't have an office there. Doesn't matter. We will still assist you in trying to meet that woman, whatever it takes. We will help. All right. Prior to scheduling or traveling to meet any of the women profiled on the site individually, as opposed to going on a group tour or a club, we strongly advise that you have a video call with the woman in question. So before you can get on a plane, if you're going to get on a plane, you're going to travel halfway around the world to meet maybe one or just two women, here's a really good tip. Have a video call first, okay? because that video call may show you that maybe it's not worth all this time and effort to go meet this woman, or gee, I got to get over there as soon as possible, right? But it will give you a little more insight on whether or not a trip just to meet one or two women, which is always a little bit risky and dicey at best anyway, because that's a long ways to go just to meet one or two people, because you never know what's going to happen when you meet. But having a video call first, I think, will go a long ways towards firming up whether or not you really want to do that. Okay. And then we strongly is against IMBR regulations to try and arrange to meet yourself via correspondence. So yeah, some guys will try and do that, but if you do that and then they meet her and everything's go well, then you're going to want the IMBR document that we have to provide to the government, because that's the law, and we can't give that to you unless you do it through the channels you need to do it through. And it's better for the women too. It's safety. It's all these things that we worry about. So please talk to us before you go over, and let us help arrange it so it's seamless, so you're safe, so you're meeting her. I mean, we can help take care of all that for you. It's really, really important. All right. And then about correspondence, we talk about it on the site. Read this stuff, guys, because it's there for you. Correspondence is only a tool that should be used sparingly, okay, if at all. Again, I never used it, and I met my wife. You don't have to actually write before you go. You'd be surprised how many women you'll be able to meet without ever writing a single letter, okay? You don't have to do that. But if you feel like you have to, like I was talking earlier, intuitively you feel like you have to write, okay, I get that. Maybe you write a few. When you sign up for the tour, we give you a credit to actually write some of the letters for free if you want. And you can write some if you like, but you don't really have to. When you go over, you're going to be meeting a lot of people, and it's that meeting where things really, really happen. You could have correspondence going for a year and go over and meet, and it's like kissing your sister. I've told that story many times. The guy that went over and did just that, right? And he wasn't even writing through us. He was writing on a private thing with just him and her, writing just through email. But when he finally got to meet her, it was like kissing his sister. It just was no spark. There was no, you need that. So we talk about how correspondence is only a tool. And of course, due to the international nature of the site, the women are assisted by our matchmakers translators with their correspondence, with both translations and even assistance with the content of their letters. We also assist men from time to time with that. Now, although this may help with communication, and it does help with communication, it's very important that you meet in person as soon as practical. You have to be physically together to discover if there really is any chemistry. Unlike other sites, the matchmakers translators work closely with the women and can and do assist them with their correspondence in many ways by providing translations and also assisting them with the content of their correspondence, and also often even encourage them to correspond and ultimately meet you. I mean, they're going to help these women quite a bit. When these women join our service, they're talked to, they're told how this service works, and they get a lot of assistance. And they also get urged, or they get, what's the word I'm looking for? They get help from the matchmakers to talk with you, to correspond with you, to meet you, all of that. I mean, that's what the matchmaker's job is try to bring these people together, and they're helping as much as possible. So it's really, really imperative that you understand this when you use the site, that these women are getting assistance, and it's as important as possible for you to meet as soon as possible, or at least do a Skype call so you can be in front of each other and talk to each other and see how things are going. Again, this is different than just a do-it-yourself site where you put up a profile, she puts up a profile. These women are getting a lot more assistance. Understand that. And if you don't like that, the women are getting help with the translations and even the content of letters, then don't use the site. Go to one of the do-it-yourself sites. But you are going to get a better response because of all of the assistance that these women are getting, and because that they get help from matchmakers, and the matchmakers are helping them and persuading them, that was the word I was looking for, persuading them to actually meet you. Because a lot of times, there's a couple here in Phoenix where the woman did not want to meet him at all. He was older than what she had thought she wanted, and a different race than what she thought she wanted, but the affiliates just kept pushing and pushing the matchmakers to, no, you should meet him, you should meet him, you should meet him. And she met. And now she's here. living here with him. That would have never in a million years happened if not for the matchmakers in that case really pushing and helping. And she even said it herself and talked about it. So it's so important, but this is different. You have to understand that. So it's not something that you want to sit there and write forever and ever. You want to try and go over as soon as possible. All right. All right, I'm going to get some more questions. We'll talk about some more of this stuff here. But guys, just read what's on the site. And it'll really help you understand how the site really works and whether or not you really want to use it or not. And that's important. All right. Jeremy says, hey, John, can you send me a list of restaurants to stay away from in Odessa? Yes, Jeremy, send an email to me about that, to just john@lovemail.com, and I will get this over to Anna, and I think she still has the list. If not, we'll get it from Kate or someone, but we did have a list of restaurants. And what Jeremy's talking about is the old restaurant scam, where you go to a restaurant and they pull out the different menu for foreigners, and then all of a sudden your meal is way more expensive than it should have ever been. And there's a few restaurants in Odessa. Odessa was one of the worst offenders for that we warn the guys about to stay away from, because that can happen. There's some really good restaurants there that don't play those games, and there's others that will play games like that. And so, see, that's another good thing about using a site like this. Mostly, again, do-it-yourself dating sites are not going to warn you about that. They're not going to tell you about those kind of things. We do. And when we see it, we say something and we try to help you. So that's important. All right. So Ed's saying, can you comment on us guys meeting women with recent AFA profiles who are in the U.S.? Lots of great profiles. If I'm traveling to New York next month, or if I'm traveling to New York City next month for biz, can AFA set up individual dates for me in New York City? Yeah. If the woman is in New York, and some of these women are coming from the Ukraine, they're settling here in the U.S., and they are still available and willing to meet. So yes, you can do that. You need to contact our office. It's pretty much like a regular one-on-one introduction where we'll help set it up. We still have to do IMBRA. We still have to do all that, but we can certainly do it. So it's not a problem. But again, I wouldn't recommend writing forever if you're going to do that. Maybe a letter or two, just let her know who you are and that you'd like to meet. And if she's open to it, then meet. And again, before you drive halfway across the country, maybe do a Skype call first to make sure the two of you are compatible, that there's something there that's worth driving for and actually meeting. I hate to see you drive halfway across the country, meet for 20 minutes, and then, okay, that was nice, and then she's gone. Okay, that's not a great date. So we want to make sure that there's something there before you go, okay, and do all that. All right. Chris says, none of these women will ever judge anything about anyone. We had a young man from Taiwan that was shy. He did great. Yeah, that's what's really cool about this too, is that when you're in this social event, there's so much support. It's so much different than just being one-on-one. And some guys are like, oh, I don't know, I couldn't be in that big area with all these women and these guys. But when you're there, it's different. Yes, it can be intimidating sometimes at first, but everyone's trying to help everyone too, pretty much. And so you just find your place. You fit in, and it's really cool, I think. So yeah, I would not worry about that at all, as being shy or timid when you're there. Especially if we notice that you're a little bit shy, we will try to pair you with your matchmaker, who's going to be at your side all night, by the way, at these group events that you're seeing here. And we'll try to pair you with someone who's going to be a little more aggressive, a little more outgoing. And I think that helps some of the shyer guys. And all of a sudden they feel more comfortable because they have this, this aggressive wing woman who's at their side all night, helping them talk to the women, helping them get the dates. Again, this is another case, just like correspondence that we were talking about, where you have someone helping you talk to the women and helping the women talk to you. Even though you're right there in the room, they're still helping, and they're going to put a little bit of their spin on the conversation. Same with correspondence. It's going to happen because you have a third person involved. There's one story that I think is kind of funny, actually. It's one of our executive clients was really, really in love with this woman in Odessa, and they thought that the two of them were meant for each other. She really did not speak much English, So she had a translator that was with them all the time. The translator was doing her best to translate. But, you're human, and when you're working with someone, you're going to, impart some of your personality, some of your spin on it. And so, they're always together, and they were using the same matchmaker interpreter the whole time. And then when they went off on their own, they went to another country. I think it was Dominican or someplace. And it was just the two of them without that third person. And all of a sudden, it wasn't the same. It was like, oh, wow, we're missing something. Yeah, they were missing the third party who was kind of helping them along. And then they realized that maybe they weren't right for each other. And they ended up not getting married. And then she met someone else, and then she married that person. So a third party can have an influence in this. That's why I've always recommended when you're there, let's say in Mexico City, and you're dating, that you use, if you need an interpreter, if the woman doesn't speak that much English, that you use different interpreters so that you get a better idea of what she's really like as opposed to the same one all the time. But again, that's going to happen when you have people helping. And sometimes it's really great, and sometimes it helps really well. Sometimes it can spin it a little bit. But you have to understand that that can happen, and then if you understand that, then you're prepared for it. All right. Don says, I'll call you tomorrow, John. I'm sending in a screenshot email. Yeah, do that, Don, because I'm not sure. I just need a little bit more context of what that means. I'll ask one of the girls here, and we'll figure it out, what she's really talking about there. So, let's see here. Hold on one second. I'm trying to get your guys' questions here. Okay. So Dakota says, what do you do if you're planning on going on a tour and find the lady on social media posting pictures with a boyfriend from the country she lives in, but she is actively on the site? Well, look, social media is a really fun and interesting thing, and there's all kinds of things that get posted on social media. And you use the word boyfriend, but do you really know what's going on with that woman? And if you see something that looks amiss, then what I would suggest is asking the woman, say, hey, I noticed that, there seems like you may be in a relationship with this person, but you're still active on here. What's going on? There's 50-some thousand profiles on the site, just like any other dating site. And there's a possibility that if a woman is in a relationship that she hasn't told us yet, then she needs to be removed. But if she's corresponding or she's actively with you and you feel like there's an issue, then you should either ask her right away, and if that doesn't resolve it for you, then let us know, and then we'll look into it. We'll look into exactly what you're talking about and say, okay, yeah, well, if you're in this relationship and it's a committed relationship, then you really shouldn't be in this. But maybe it's not a committed relationship. I mean, there's so many different variables when you're talking about this that you have to really look at it and see what's going on. And we're usually pretty good about that. So if you let us know, our staff will take the time to research it, look at exactly what you're talking about, and then deal with it and resolve it to your satisfaction and make sure it's right. Because if someone is in a real committed relationship, then they really shouldn't be active on the site. And that goes for men too. I mean, I remember having men being dropped off at the airport by their girlfriend. And it's like, really? He goes, well, it's not really that serious. And I'm going, and yeah, okay. So it goes both ways too. But happy, I mean, if there's something, if you're going on a tour and you really want to know about this, please let us know. We'd love to take a look at it and see if we can help resolve it. Why not make something just outside of the Ukraine, like Moldova? So the problem with that, as far as he's talking about doing like a social in another city, like maybe in Warsaw or Berlin or somewhere like that. And just the problem with that is just the density, so to speak, of profiles. Because when you do something like this and you bring a decent number of men to a city, then you want to be able to provide enough dating opportunity for everybody. And that means you have to have a lot of profiles of women in one area in order to make it work well. That's why it works well right now in Mexico City, in Colombia, Costa Rica, Peru, Thailand, all these places we go to. And it used to work really well in the Ukraine because in Kyiv, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of profiles, and it was easy for us to do what we were doing. Well, I won't say easy, but it was plausible for us to do what we were doing. It's an amazing amount of work that these staff do in all these different cities to make all this a reality for you guys when you go. So that's what we're looking at to see where the different women went, who are still active on the site, and how we could actually, what city may be best to do something like that. But there's a lot of logistical planning that goes into it. You'd be shocked at how much time and effort goes into making these events happen for you guys. It's not an easy thing. And so, yeah, keep that in mind. All right. Marvin, I wish you would show older women 45 and above, nothing against the young ladies. Well, Marvin, from what I understand, the socials that we just did in Mexico City, we'll have footage of that soon. There were quite a few older women, and there were a few older men as well, so it worked out well at that social. So we will have footage of that, and we'll see, but I'm guessing that you'll see more women in their 40s and above at that social. And you're right, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's wonderful, beautiful women in their 40s and 50s that are on the site. And we really do need to feature that more. I totally agree with that, Marvin. And so we will make a concerted effort to do that. All right. All right. Jeremy says, can't wait, leaving for Odessa next Wednesday. So Jeremy's going, apparently. And that's really cool. So Jeremy, yeah, you should give us a call tomorrow. Talk with Anna, who's myself or Anna, but I'll definitely have you talk with Anna so that she can give you as many tips as possible on Odessa. And be safe. Make sure it's something that you really want to do. But if you're going, then, I'm sure that you've researched it and you understand what you're doing and where you're going. But talk to Anna again and just make sure that's something you really want to do. All right. Does the agency still offer the executive package to meet women in Ukraine? And is there an office in Lviv? So Richard, yes, we still do offer the executive package for women in and around the Ukraine. It would be Eastern Europe in general for the executive package, not just Ukraine, but Russia as well. And women living outside of Eastern Europe and Western Europe as well. So, and we do have clients that are doing the executive still, and we can certainly work with that and do that. It's a little bit different than it used to be, again, because some of our executive clients are not going into the Ukraine because they prefer not to, so they're going into Germany or Poland or places like that, and then they're having the women come over to meet them, or women are already in those cities and they're able to meet them there. So again, the logistics are a little bit different, but we're still doing it, and it's great, and I highly recommend it. If you really want a personalized, much more matchmaking, much more in-depth matchmaking that goes on for months, literally, before you go over to actually meet the best candidates that we found throughout that process. And that includes a lot of Skypes, some letters, but mainly a lot of Skypes and whatnot to really try to find the best possible candidates for you. And then you go over and you meet them. And it's really an amazing experience. We've had a lot of men that have been successful with the executive. Okay? All right. Let me get back up here, I think. Hopefully I'm answering most of you guys' questions. I'm trying my best, but I think I am. Yeah, Chris says Mexico City was great for 40 plus. And I think that's, on that tour, from what I understand, a lot of the guys obviously were over 40, and so I think that worked really well. Chris also says, remember guys, you have to be available to travel back to the location your lady is living. And that's something that, guys think about too. To me, it's most important to try to find the right woman, right, wherever she is, right? Some guy, well, I don't want to go to Peru because it's so far. But there's wonderful women in Peru, there really are. And yes, if you go and you meet the right woman there, then when you come back to the States, you're going to have to fly back to meet her again, at least once or twice. And then if you guys do get married, you'll probably go back a few times. But to me, it's worth a little bit of the extra flying time if you find the woman of your dreams. So I would not limit it to someplace that's closer just because it's easier to go back to or whatnot. But Chris makes a good point. What are the red flags for guys to look for if they're being scammed? Well, Jeremy, I mean, look, if something raises the hair on the back of your neck, if something makes you feel like there's something going on that's shouldn't be going on, like the woman asks you to buy her a condo on the first date, that's probably shouldn't happen, right? That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but there's been instances where, it's just very obvious that, this woman's not interested in you at all, only interested in your wallet, asking for things that she just should not be asking for right away or shortly after you meet. And when you feel like something that's happened, like that is happening, let us know. Just say, hey, is this normal? Is this the culture? Is this, something that, because yes, women in the Ukraine are very feminine. And yes, they do expect some small gifts from now and then because they put a lot of work in being very feminine. And they want to be feminine. They want to be the woman. They want you to be the man and to appreciate them. So there is that. Does that mean you have to buy them a car or a laptop or a phone or a condo? No. But nice little things that you would normally do for a woman, those kind of things. So, you have to use your common sense. And when you start to wonder, hey, is she really into me or not? Then let us know. We'll be pretty frank with you, right? We're going to tell you what we think. If you call and tell me you've been on a date with her for 5 times and she doesn't even hold your hand, then no, she's probably not that into you. And no, it's not a cultural thing. She's just not that into you, right? And she may be interested in just going out to dinner or just, maybe you as a friend or whatever it is. But this is real life. You're going to have good, bad, and ugly when you use this service and you go dating. That's just how it's going to be. And you would not want anything less, because if this was perfect and every date was perfect, then it would be something like Disneyland, where everyone's just paid to make you happy while you're there. And that's not what this is about. We want you to go and have real experiences with these women, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And sometimes it's going to be ugly. That's just the way it is. So what? There's so many other women that you can go out with and date if you have one bad experience or 2 or whatever it is. All right. Michael says, what if I meet a woman and there is no ember form signed? Well, then everyone's in big trouble, Michael. It's not good. Look, every ember form, every time you meet a woman, at some point before or right at the meeting, the ember form should be signed. And if it wasn't, then it needs to be rectified. Mistakes can happen, okay? We're doing thousands of introductions, and from time to time, a mistake can happen. And as long as it's not intentional and it's a mistake, then we try to remedy it as soon as possible. And that's all you can do. And so if that ever happens with you, then please let us know, because those ember forms are important. Sometimes we go back years to find one because the couple may have met and it may be years before they decide to go do the fiance visa. 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And we have to go back into the archives, find that form where they first met, where they first did the ember form, and then we have to provide that to them so that they can provide it to the USCIS as part of the fiancé visa package. And it is part of the fiancé visa package. This ember thing isn't something we made up. It's a real thing, and we have to deal with it, and we do. All right. All right. Guys, again, I just want to go, I know we talked a little bit about the information that's on the page where you log into my account. We talked a little bit about the correspondence. We talked about the meetings. It's just really important that you look at this stuff and you read it. Corresponding the smart way. There's some really good tips in that little article. SMART being the acronym, right? And so there's some good stuff. In the FAQs, there's some really good information there about how that works, how correspondence can work, how the video calls work, how all that works. But just know that these women do get a lot of support, a lot of help, which is why when you're on this site, you're going to get more response than you would normally get on a do-it-yourself site. That doesn't mean every woman's going to want to marry you or every woman's going to want to have your child tomorrow. The same with the introduction letters. If you read the site, the introduction letters are primarily, almost always, sent by the matchmakers, not by the women. We tell you this on the site. It's important to understand that. So when you're getting one, you don't feel obliged to answer it. It's just a possible indication of interest. And the parameters that matchmakers use vary widely between matchmaker to matchmaker. It can be very narrow, or it can be extremely shotgun and wide, right? So just because you're getting introduction letters from women does not mean that all of them want to have your child tomorrow. That's not how that works. You have to read to understand how it works. And if you don't want to get introduction letters from the women, from the matchmakers, then just turn it off and don't get those introduction letters. Simple as that. You don't have to receive those. Those are an option, and you can easily turn them off if you don't want them. A lot of guys like getting them. They like seeing where there could be a possible indication of interest, and that's fine. But again, don't feel compelled to respond to any of them. I think it's better actually that you don't, and that you do your own search and you send your own introduction letter to the woman, and let her know that you're interested in her first without ever getting an introduction letter. And I think that's a wonderful thing to do as well. So, all right, let me keep going here. And by the way, before I forget, because we're almost out of time here, next week we have a couple special guests that are going to be on the show. From my understanding, Jeff and his fiancee Alina will be guests on the show live, I guess, from Playa del Carmen. They met on one of the previous Mexico tours, and now they are engaged, and they're going to actually come on the show and talk about their experience, which is cool. Jeff, he's such a sweetheart of a guy, great guy, and one thing that I know about him, because I have met him, is that he's got such a positive outlook on life, such a positive attitude. And guys, that goes so far. I mean, attitude is everything. If you have a great attitude, you can do so much. You can use a site like this, and you can find your fiance, like Jeff just did, or like I did, or others have done. But it's your attitude that's really going to make it or break it at the end of the day. It's how you deal with reality, how you deal with what's happening. Not everything is going to be perfect, and we're not perfect. We're far from perfect. But if you look at it, you understand how it works, which is why I'm pleading with you guys to read the site, understand how it works, and then use it to efficiently and how you want to use it. Hopefully by just going over, mainly and meeting these women in person, you can be very successful, like Jeff and his fiancee Alina. And you can talk with them next week, ask them questions, ask them how they did it. But yeah, so we're excited about that. It's very cool. Looking forward to that. All right. I think. So, Timothy, you guys are good. You noticed changes on the site too. I like that. Your search engine was recently updated to only search for women with a starting ID of 150,000 or more. What happens to the women who have an ID less than that? So guys, we always try to update the site as much as possible. So, if there were women with IDs that are less than that, they still may be on the site. They're not going to come up actively. I don't believe on that search anymore. And most of them will no longer be on there because those are much older IDs. But we're always trying to update so we have active profiles on the site as much as possible. We're not calling every woman every day to see if she's still active, so it's possible that some profiles on the site of women and men are not going to be active. And when we find that out, we do remove them. We don't want inactive profiles on the site, obviously. It doesn't do us any good. Okay. Brian says, hey, John, good to see you, man. You got to do more in the near future. Yes, I like being on these shows. They just don't let me. They just don't let me come on anymore. But one of these days, I'm going to push my way through more and get on more. But when they're out, they don't have a choice, and I sneak in here and I talk. I mean, look, and one of the things I really love doing, guys, is the seminars. And we're going to have more seminars coming up here next year. We did a few this year. They were amazing. In Texas and Vegas. We did 2 in Texas, I think, 1 in Vegas. I was at all of them. I could spend hours and hours and hours talking to you guys about what we do, how we do it. And the guys that come to the seminars are really invested. They want to know. And we always get like twice as many guys signing up for the seminars and then come, which is still a lot. So a lot of you guys still come. But I'm always surprised that not more of you guys come, because it really does give you a ton of information. What's really cool is you get to talk to some of the other guys, because virtually every seminar we do, there's guys that have been with us before that come. We don't ask them to come, they just show up and they want to share their experiences. They want to share, what happened on their tour, how they met their wife, or all the different things that happened to them through us. And it's not guys that are coming and talking about, well, I wrote these letters and they were great, and the letters were great. No, those aren't the guys that are coming. It's the guys that actually went, that actually met the women. Those are the ones that are really excited, as they should be, because they actually went and did it, and they want to share their experience. I was just talking to a gentleman today that called in who was on a 2018 tour with us, to, I believe it was Cartagena. Was it Cartagena or Medellin? And one of the things that he talked about was the fact that he still stays in contact with virtually all the guys on that tour, to the point where they're talking almost every other day, he said. One of the guys got married. Other guys, he just got back from another tour that he just went on with us in Cartagena with one of the former guys that he met on the first tour that he went on. This is more than just about going over to meet possibly the woman that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. It's also very social. It's an amazing environment that we create when you're on one of these tours. There, you get to meet a lot of wonderful women, and the staff is there, but you also get to meet them, the staff, and they're great in their own right. And then you're meeting some of the other guys. You will make friends with some of these other guys because they're a lot like you. You know, they have what it takes to get off the couch, to close the computer, get away from the keyboard, writing letters, and to get on a plane and to go make something happen. And when you get into an environment like that and you're surrounded by other guys like yourself that have that same capacity to do that, all of a sudden, you know, you're making friends, and you're talking and you're telling war stories about what's happening during the tour, the Monday morning quarterbacking that goes on at the breakfasts and everything. God, I miss that so much. It's been almost a year since I've been on a tour now. And I love talking to the guys on the tour and listening to the stories and the dissecting of dates and all that stuff. I mean, it's just so fun and interesting. So yeah, there's so much more to the tours than just go over and meet women, see if you get lucky, see if you meet the woman of your dreams or not. No. Even if, and I've been saying this for almost 30 years, guys, you got to be tired of it by now, but I'm going to say it again. Even if you don't meet the woman of your dreams on any given tour, it's still well worth the price of admission for everything else you experience, everything else that you receive during that tour. You come back feeling great. You had a fun time. You met great people. You had all these different experiences in a foreign country with the different locals there foreign in the foreign country, with the food, with everything. It's just such an amazing experience, and you didn't waste a bunch of time up front trying to figure out all the logistics you normally have to do, because we did all that for you. And so when you got there, you knew where to go change the money and where to go buy the cell phone thing and to get the food and to do this and that, right? You knew all that because we told you, and our staff is there helping you. So keep that in mind. It's not just about one thing. Okay, I do have a few more here, and we're getting over time. I'm just going to go a couple more questions here, and then we're going to go. But guys, promise you'll read some of this stuff on the site that we put there. We put it there for your own edification and to help your experience on the site be improved and be a better experience for you. So look at it, read it, and if you have questions, let us know, and we'll do our best to answer them for you. But most importantly, read the stuff about how you should go over and meet in person as soon as possible. Jeremy wants to know the major differences in Slavic women from Ukraine versus Russia. I've been saying this for years. You know, I'm married to a Russian, but I know many Ukrainian women. Actually, my wife is part Ukrainian as well. I mean, there's so much of a mixture between Russia and Ukraine. That's why this war is such a travesty and so terrible. It's almost like a civil war, really. It's just terrible. But there are a lot of similarities between Russians and Ukrainians, and I would think that it's more of a function of the size of the city the woman lives in than the difference between Russia and Ukraine that I've seen. I know with this war, some people are, no, there's total differences, and I get that, and I'm respectful of that. But it's just been my experience that women in Moscow are much different than women in Veliki Novgorod, which is a smaller city in Russia. But those two women living in Veliki Novgorod and Moscow tend to be more different than a woman from, say, a big city like Kyiv and a big city like Moscow, just from the Slavic point of view. But yeah, that's just my take on it. What do I know? I've only been doing this for almost 30 years, but hey, I don't know everything about it. And Mark says, I'm more worried about my medical issues than being sure. Yeah, Mark, well, I understand that, Mark. You've been with us for a long time. You're a great guy. And if and when you're ever ready to really go over, then, you know, talk with us. And we can give you advice on medical issues. If you tell us about what you need in the country you're going to, we can talk to people there to make sure that you're going to be able to be okay while you're there. That's important. And you need to be able to verify that. And we've helped a lot of people with medical issues over the years go on these tours and be okay. But this is kind of your due diligence you need to do up front if you're going to do something like that. Okay. All right. I believe that we've covered all your questions here. I think so. So, guys, tune in next week. We're going to have great guests on here, and that will be a wonderful thing to be able to ask them questions about their experience. They're great. I know Jeff is just a sweetheart of a guy. Any of you guys that still want to try and make the last tour of the year, that's December 7th coming up here in the Philippines. We'd love to see you on that. There's still some spots available on that one. I know December's a busy month for a lot of people, but you know, if you're living someplace in the Northeast, let's say, and it's snowing on you and it's cold, well, you can escape to the Philippines where it's nice and warm and you'll love it. And you get to meet a lot of wonderful women. So think about it. Not too late. All right, guys, I really, really appreciate you listening to me drone on. It's just me. I know it's hard, one person talking for an hour at you. But I really, really appreciate that. And please read the things on the site that we put up there. It's important. It will help you understand how this works. All right. All right, guys, until next time, thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. Why? I mean, there's a lot of women here. Why did you start thinking about going outside of the country to date?
Well, for the last 5 years or so when I joined this site, I'd met some foreign women here in the United States, back where I live, and I was interested in not women who were actually born in the States and, you know, were Asian or some other ethnicity. So I just, I thought they were interesting. Loved the accents.
Okay.
They speak pretty good English. I love their accents.
You're a sucker for a good accent. Huh?
Yes,
All right.
yes, and a pretty face, of course.
Okay.
But no, that's why I joined. Like I said earlier, I worked a lot, so I couldn't go on tour. I was working 7 days a week there for a while. Then the pandemic hit, so that everything dried up, and then everything kind of got back to normal. I thought, just one day. I said to myself, it was like a Wednesday night. I thought, I'm writing out a check. I'm going to mail it, and I'm going on this tour. Because I had up my vacation time, and I could take off.
So let's talk about why did you pick Thailand over, we go to Europe, we go to Latin America, other places in Asia. Why Thailand?
Well, that was my first one. So I would like to go to China. It'd be nice to do the Europe tour, but unfortunately the events going on in Ukraine, that's not possible at this time. And I've been to Mexico several times. I even thought about doing the Mexico City tour.
But what got you interested in going to Thailand first? Was it just or?
Well, the dates, I believe it was August 24th through September 2nd. I did the 10-day, and it just worked out. Where I work is not everyone can take vacation at the same time, so they try to spread it out. And nobody was taking vacation at that particular time, so it worked out well.
So your schedule worked. You know,
Yep,
go to Thailand.
Worked. Yep.
All right.
And,
so were you fearful? Were you nervous? What was going through your mind when you first signed up and as the date got closer?
Well, the first thing, I've flown to Europe before. I've worked in Europe. It's a long trip. Recently, as last summer, I worked in Denmark for 16 days.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I had jet lag. And this was 28 hours travel time and 30 coming back.
Wow.
And that's a lot of jet lag. And, Friday, I went at the Lynn and the people at the Bangkok AFA affiliate. They said, try to stay up till like 9 o'clock. I thought, there's no way. So I took a nap, and then we did the city tour and met Lynn and the other guys in the tour. And then that was Thursday night, and then Friday night was the first social, and then Saturday night was the second one. Still a little jet lag.
Jet lag, yeah.
Yes, just kind of took it easy that day. But then I still felt a little tired. And then you walk into this room with 58, 60 women, and all that jet lag suddenly went away.
Yeah, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I gotta be on, right?
Like
gotta be ready. Okay, all right, that's cool. That's good. So you weren't too worried about going over, though? You felt comfortable with all the information you got from Michelle and everything, that everything was gonna be taken care of?
Yep, yeah, it was really smooth. The flights over there, everything was on time, and the connecting flights, I had 2 out of the United States, one in Doha, Qatar, and then it went into Bangkok. But yeah, the thing about Bangkok that time of year, it can rain a lot and it's very humid over there. So keep that in mind and pack comfortable clothes, especially if you like to do things outside and walk around, which I suggest around Soi 11 and 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much fun stuff to do in Bangkok.
Yeah, there's
It's all over.
lots of things.
Okay, so you get there and you're getting your bearings, and then Thursday and Friday morning they did the little city tour thing, but then that social happens on Friday, and you said you walked into that room. Have you ever been in an environment like that before?
Never. Yeah.
Just a little
So
bit.
I felt like a kid in a candy store, honestly. Yeah, and you rotate tables, every 15 minutes, I think.
About
it was.
15 minutes, yeah.
And you basically tell your interpreter, and I had Prissy Sue spoke very good English, very good, and slang. That's important. A lot of them don't speak much slang, so you have to speak plain English with a lot of these women who do speak English in Thailand. But she was very good, and she goes, "You like one? Just point her out to me." And usually at lunch break or something, I was talking to someone else, and I turned around, and the girl I picked out was sitting right next to me waiting.
There you go.
Yeah,
Not bad.
This is
Okay.
you're on the ball here. So that was nice. And then after the social was over, I think it was 7 to 11, and then the women who was able to, we picked out some, went to a little discotheque and had a DJ playing discotheque, and we danced. Had a few cocktails and danced. So that was a lot of fun as well.
So how would you describe it to the guys? Because look, a lot of guys they look at the video, they see this room, and a lot of guys feel like it's something like going into a bar here in the States, right? Where you go up to the women and you get shot down. And I always try to say, well, the women there actually want to meet you. That's one of the reasons they're there, and it's a much different environment. Would you say that was true for yourself?
Yes, and they're single too.
And they're single, yeah, because they're there. They've been screened from our process, at least, on how we have the women come in. So, but as far as just the ease of talking to them, did you notice that was different?
Well, some of them spoke better English than others,
Right.
and that's why you have an interpreter, so that's nice. Some of them speak, but like I said, you have to be, playing